What's going on, everyone? The Los Angeles Lakers just signed Dennis Schroeder, and it just looks odd, right? Like, why do you have all these point guards? You got to imagine that a trade is going to be done, right? This looks like a signing that is a signal to a bigger outcome, right? A bigger trade coming to light. And we got a ton of news, a ton of information. It's hard to kind of trudge through it all. And we even got this report. Jovan Buha and Sam Emick. I see a lot of people in my live stream I did earlier, in the comments on a couple videos, diving into some of this stuff, people mentioning this 4-team trade, that the Lakers are currently in discussions for this. And you see, the Lakers, Jazz, Knicks, and Hornets have engaged in a 4-team trade that would send Bojan Bogdanovic and Terry Rozier to LA. And immediately people think, like, this is great, right? You get Terry Rozier, a guy that can play on the ball, off the ball, another versatile guard. Although, how many more guards do we really need? But you get Bojan Bogdanovic. Looking at this deal, you got to imagine that there's more going to LA because the money for Terry Rozier and Bogdanovic don't line up. So maybe you're getting a Cam Reddish. Maybe you're getting something along those lines, right? So maybe we could get several players, and we have several players going out. Maybe we have a Westbrook and, Winning Gabriel, something like that going out in these various teams, especially when you have this many teams. It's more than likely that there's going to be a ton of moving parts. But it is really hard to do a 4-team deal. Like, really hard to do a 4-team deal. It's hard enough to do a one-on-one deal. And even the Knicks and the Lakers had a 3-team deal last season for the Lakers to acquire Cam Reddish, and the Knicks ended up messing it up, literally, like, as they're going to file the paperwork. So it's extremely hard. But here's the thing about this particular deal. This particular deal is a non-deal. It's something that happened prior. It's an old story that, for whatever reason, they decided to run with it now. Maybe it's just, to get some clicks, get some likes, get some, the conversation is, are the Lakers going to do a trade? So why not release some information of the Lakers on a trade? It's kind of my problem with this thing. But as you see here, if you actually dive into the article and not just the headline, it clearly says the Los Angeles Lakers were in talks with a 4-team deal involving the New York Knicks, Utah Jazz, and Charlotte Hornets earlier this summer before the Jazz sent Donovan Mitchell to the Cleveland Cavaliers. So this trade was something that was a talk with the Donovan Mitchell trade. Very likely Donovan Mitchell going to the Knicks. You probably would have seen something like, Westbrook either going to the Jazz or the Hornets. Something along those lines. Lakers would have gotten back some assets from probably everybody, and it would have made more sense then because the Lakers had 2 open roster spots, right? And you send out Westbrook, you could take back 3 players, and, if you needed to get a 4th player, something like that, like let's say you get a Rozier, Bogdanovic, and then a Cam Reddish, boom, perfect. You could just give up Westbrook, and then everybody wins, right? That kind of thing. But now, makes no sense with Dennis Schroeder. For one, because now you only have 1 open roster spot. You send out Westbrook, get a player back. Well, okay, that's a neutral spot, but you could only bring on 1 more player. So you could do a 1-for-2 swap. But again, maybe Winning Gabriel, something along those lines is a real possibility. But I wanted to also add this to it because it does mean that a Lakers trade is very likely still to happen because both of them noted that the Lakers and Jazz are still talking with the Los Angeles pursuing Bogdanovic, Jordan Clarkson, and Malik Beasley. This makes more sense. We'll dive into this specifically in another video, likely tomorrow. At some point, we'll talk into this if no trade has been brought up. But I want to kind of explore this whole situation because it is something that could maybe still be explored. Maybe not a 4-team deal, but maybe a 3-team deal, right? Especially if Charlotte is a team and the Knicks are both teams that want to take on Westbrook. They've all 3 of these teams have been linked to taking on Westbrook for some time. So maybe you don't need the Jazz, right? Like, let's say the Jazz, they don't want to, they're not playing ball. They're just being difficult. Well, maybe you could work something out where you just do the Hornets and the Knicks, or maybe you just do the Hornets and the Jazz, and maybe you could get a Malik Beasley, right? Let's say you could get Malik Beasley, Bojan Bogdanovic, and Terry Rozier, and maybe give up a Winning Gabriel and Russell Westbrook. I'm not sure if the math off the top of my head actually matches, but I know it'd be somewhere close because the Lakers could take on as much as like, I believe 58 million, 56 to 58 million with just Westbrook. So throw in a winning Gabriel, that gets you close to 60 million. And, I know Beasley's making 15. Bogdanovich is making, let's just round it up to 20. So you're talking, there's 35 million there. And Rozier's making, I think, like 18, something like that. 20. Let's just call it 20, right? So there's 55 million. So you can make it work. Lakers could just do it with just Westbrook. So I wouldn't be opposed to something like that if they were to work out like a 3-team deal along those lines. But again, you could phase somebody out, phase out the Knicks, maybe get still a Rozier and Bogdanovich, and then maybe Beasley could be added into, or maybe you get a Kelly Oubre. That would solve your wing depth right there, right? And maybe the Hornets are the team that's taking on, say, a Russell Westbrook, and they're unloading the guy. Maybe you make it work somehow, kind of figure it out. Again, this is just exploratory. I'm not saying that this would happen. I think if any deal is going to happen, it's going to be just probably straight up with the Jazz and the Lakers. I think they're the most likely scenario. I think the Jazz have an inherent like problem solver with the Lakers and Russell Westbrook, and then the Lakers, they get some pieces to add to this team, and it just makes sense. I mean, the whole Dennis Schroeder thing, it just doesn't add up for me. Unless the Lakers are making a trade, unless they know that they are at least close to a trade, right? They might be looking at it as like, yeah, we're a piece away. We know what we need to do if we have to get it done, but let's negotiate a little more. And who knows, maybe tomorrow morning, well, at the time you watch this video, it probably is the morning. So, depending on where you're at, because I'm recording this video kind of late, but, maybe at mid-morning or something like that, we see a deal. Maybe a deal gets done, or within the next couple days, something like that. I would imagine within the next 5 days, we get something, because I know even Tony Jones, he had a tweet where he talked about Utah's training camp is the 27th of this month. So if that's the case, then we're basically a week away from training camp. What is that? A week from Monday or something like that? And they want to do a deal before training camp. Like Danny Ainge said that. He wants to get a deal done before training camp. And the Lakers have had training camp as a soft date to move Russell Westbrook. So if anything is going to materialize, it's going to be by training camp. So the beauty is the Lakers have options, and that's what is important. Do you have options, or are you solely on this one person? Now, the Jazz, based on reports, it's the Lakers right now. They don't have any other deals on the table, and they just continue to keep talking to the Lakers. That's a good sign. I say it time and time again, no news is good news, right? Unless if we saw Bogdanovich get traded, then that's a little bit of a concern, a little cause for concern. But until somebody gets moved or something, then we're good. We're in a good spot. Nothing's going to happen. And I just want to clarify a couple other things, since, this is a video kind of clarifying things, is one, I got a lot of people telling me, the Jazz already waived their two people. No, they didn't. So they waived Bass and Snead. Neither of those were guaranteed contracts. Neither of those guys, one was on Exhibit 10, one was a two-way. So, no, they're still at the same issue. 17 people on the roster. Nothing's changed in that regards. So, yeah, just to let everyone know about that. But, yeah, when it comes to this, it's like you could work something out. You could do maybe a Charlotte and Knicks, Charlotte and Jazz, maybe even Charlotte, Knicks, and Jazz. Maybe you could kind of configure, let's say the Knicks would be willing to take Jordan Clarkson, or would want Jordan Clarkson, and maybe you include a Kendrick Nunn, right? And maybe you're sending Kendrick Nunn to the Knicks. You're sending, or maybe let's say Charlotte wants Kendrick Nunn for a Terry Rozier. So you still get that kind of two-way type guy, the combo guard. So maybe you send a Kendrick Nunn and a Westbrook or something like that, or whatever. You get my point. Is that you could have multiple changing parts, and then where the Lakers end up landing, say Bogdanovich, you land Cam Reddish, maybe even figure out, maybe the Knicks take Westbrook, and then they end up giving us say Fournier and Cam Reddish. You get Fournier, Cam Reddish, Terry Rozier, and Bogdanovich, and you have like Kendrick Nunn, Winning Gabriel, and Russell Westbrook going out. Boom, there's all your roster spots, and now you got this like team. You got deep, you got vets, you got a little bit of everything. Like you could make things work. So just because this was an old deal doesn't mean it's not something that could be explored. I think that this is just these two kind of trying to ride the wave of, hey, Lakers are irrelevant right this moment, and there's, a signing that makes it look like there's going to be a trade. So let's make a headline that says the Lakers are working on a 4-team trade, and then, people don't read the articles, which is true. People don't read can't tell you how many times people have commented something, and I'm like, all you have to do is actually read like the first paragraph of the article, and it explains to you exactly what it was. I mean, even the whole, Jazz waiving 2 players. I had people that were like, trying to get their big I gotcha moment. Oh, look, you thought that the trade was going to happen. And, I've never said 100% it's going to happen. I just said it's very likely. But, people want to do the I gotcha moment. It's like all you had to do was just read the first paragraph of the article, of the statement that was released. It tells you exactly what's going on here, that nothing changed, and I feel like this is kind of the same thing. If you just read the first paragraph, because that's where I screenshotted that, was the first paragraph. It tells you that this was prior to the Donovan Mitchell deal. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, and I do think a trade is very likely to happen. Again, the whole Dennis Schroeder signing just makes 0 sense unless there is a trade coming for the Lakers. Because now you got 4 point guards, and that's not even counting your shooting guards, stuff like that. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. So anyway, again, however you feel about the situation, I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions. Would you like to see a trade? Maybe they could touch on it again, work something out. I don't think that would happen. Again, 4-team trades are so hard to do. Not that it doesn't happen, but especially when you're talking big moving pieces. Usually like when you see the 4-team deals, it's like every team is swapping like 1 or 2 like into bench guys or role guys or something, or you're getting a guy to cut salary, stuff like that. Like, very rarely do you see like a Russell Westbrook, even like the original part, Donovan Mitchell, Terry Rozier, Bogdanovich, all these pieces. It's so hard to do something like that when you have like 30 players going out. But however you feel about it, love to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. Quick little shameless plug, everyone. If you enjoy my videos and commentary here on this channel, As It Stands Lakers, then check out the link down in the description below and go subscribe to As It Stands. Believe it or not, As It Stands was the first channel. If it wasn't for that channel, this channel would never have existed. Because of the success of that channel, it led me to want to create this Lakers channel. So do me a huge solid. If you're not subscribed over there, go check that out. Go subscribe over there. I talk all things sports, all teams, things like that, not just the Lakers. So if you just enjoy my commentary and want to hear me talk about other things, or you just, are a fan of other sports and other teams, go check that out. I promise you will not be disappointed. That being said, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, followed by the bell notification. Stay up to date with all things sports. Join this wonderful community and all of our discussions. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.